Things in the industry have never been better, and judging by our topics this week, things should only get better. This is the Good Game Bad Game podcast. Oops, all positive edition.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game Bad Game podcast. Good Game Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who has all the fixes to ensure we don't see the tragic downfall of the thing we love. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
Let's save the Scott Pilgrim saves the industry. Let's go.
Yeah, except it's GGBG Mike saves the industry.
Yes.
And you have to fight all of the games industry's ex-girlfriends. So like Bobby Kotick, you have to fight Bobby Kotick, and
Wonder how he's enjoying the beach.
hopefully it's terrible. Hopefully he's got like, am I allowed to say hopefully he has sun poisoning? Am I allowed to say that?
In game.
Oh yeah. In game. To be clear, I wasn't saying it. I was just asking if I'm allowed to say it.
You are allowed to say it.
In game.
In game.
In game chat. In game. How you doing? How was your week in games?
Well, I had a wild card in there.
Oh.
Did continue playing some Forza to stay with the consistent. Still playing Forza Horizon 5, still loving that game. Fantastic. But I had a wild card in there. I was really in the mood to play some Game Boy Advance games that I'd never played.
Okay.
So I started Legend of Zelda Minish Cap. And go on.
I was gonna say okay.
Okay. Weird reaction. Anyway. Yeah, so I started playing that on Switch Online.
Yep.
And that was a game that I like always wanted when I was younger. Never got it. I don't know why.
Okay. Yep. I was about to say you never did have it, right?
Nope. Never had it. I think we had 4 swords or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one where you could like link together 4 Game Boys. For all the kids in the audience, you actually had to like physically connect devices back then. It was a great time.
The glory days, as we called them.
Yep. And yeah, so I started playing that, and I ended up pissing away like 4 or 5 hours in one sitting.
I feel like that tracks for a Zelda game.
It was like 8 o'clock on like this past Friday evening, and I had like said I wanted to go to bed early because I was just exhausted. I was dead tired, and I was like, okay, well, Justine still had. I think she wanted to stay up and read for a bit. It's like, okay, whatever, I'll stay up and start Minish Cap, and yeah, I think we stayed up like closer to 1 a.m. or something like that. I loved it. I had so much fun.
That's awesome.
I'm realizing again, and it's funny, I had this realization when I was talking to Justine about it, and I cannot get myself to play like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's far too much.
Mm-hmm.
But you give me like an old school like roguelike Legend of Zelda game, I'll play it all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same with Metroid. Like I really love the Metroid Prime games, but nothing beats the 2D games to me.
Right. That's awesome.
So yeah, I don't know. Really enjoyed it. We'll probably keep playing it. I've been like, it's been one of those games where I've been like, every time I see my Switch, I'm like, oh, I should play it. But I know I'm gonna piss away. Like, I can't just do half of a dungeon.
Right.
I have to do the whole thing, and I have to find everything in it. I can't just run through it. So I've been playing that, and then I don't know if you saw it but there was an update, I think, for the Super Nintendo, and they added a bunch of Japanese games.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you the name of the game that I played because it was in Japanese. I couldn't even tell you the purpose of the game, but I was basically just a little blob monster, and I was fighting other blob monsters. And it was in Japanese, and I couldn't understand a thing that was going on. But after every fight, there's like a map. You go around a map and you do the fights. After every fight, it takes you back to the map, but it automatically takes you to the next place and starts the fight. I was like, I really just wanted to try it because I had no idea what the game was. And I just couldn't find a way to like get out. And Justine's like, why don't you just quit the game? I was like, because I don't want to lose my progress. It was just so weird. Like I thought, because like you could save on Super Nintendo, right? It wasn't like the original Nintendo where you had to like there was no saving.
Yeah. Yeah, you can like save on the cartridges of SNES games. Yeah.
Okay, I thought so, and yeah, I don't know. They just don't give you the opportunity in that game, I guess.
That's so
I did
funny.
like the suspend save.
Oh right, yeah. I forget. I always forget that the emulators have that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just so fun. Justine's like, why do you care? I was like, why don't you? It was
That's so
it
funny.
was such a weird game. But yeah, I played that. It was great.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
That's 2 wild cards.
Yeah, and don't even get me started on trying to play 1080 for the Nintendo 64 emulator.
Did you try and play 1080 for the Nintendo 64 emulator?
I did.
Okay.
I did. But it was just a hard reminder of how much more difficult games were
Oh yeah.
in that generation.
Honestly, it is funny because I feel like that is definitely still the impression I have of that generation, but also trying to think like at the same time. Well, no, I guess Shelby and I haven't finished Yoshi's Island because it is hard. I don't know. Like we've played 3 SNES games now. Well, and Super Mario RPG. So we've played 4 SNES games, and like all told, it doesn't feel like I'm bashing my head against the wall yet. But I guess maybe we're playing the right games for us.
Mm.
So
It's just like, I mean, 1080 isn't inherently a hard game. The
sure.
controls are just stupid.
Yeah. Well, could that also just be the Nintendo 64?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, like, okay, so I was going through like the training thing, and it basically just like yells out tricks and tells you what to do, which is like great, but it also doesn't tell you how to even like start moving.
I gotcha.
You spend the first half an hour like pressing every different button combination just to figure out how to go forward at a decent speed. And then, so I got to the point, and this is where I quit, where you had to do like a 540, and it was like hold the R button and do like a 3/4 rotation of the thumbstick and then press I didn't know if this is what I was supposed to do. So the control thing said R and then do like in the top left of the screen, R and then do a 3/4 turn. And then below it said R and just like to the left or something like that to do a 540. And I'm like, am I supposed to continue holding R and do like a circle and then immediately right? Or am I supposed to release R? I couldn't get it, so I gave up. Said this isn't fun anymore.
I'm not having fun anymore.
I could do a 540 on a real life snowboard before I could do it in this game.
That's an interesting video idea, and we're now going to do this.
Okay, I'm in.
What else? What other emulator games were you going for?
That may have been it.
Oh, okay.
I was basically just going through and trying to find all the new ones.
Sure.
and all they're all Japanese. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, and then I just decided to try one.
That's fun, you know. That's the beauty of these catalogs.
Yeah.
You know, both or all three, not both. You know, with how Xbox does Game Pass, with how Sony now does PlayStation Plus, and with these, the Switch one honestly might low key be the one that I think is like the greatest value, because whatever it is for the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion, or whatever the hell the name for it is.
Only like
Um,
$20 a year, right?
well, I think
Or is
Nintendo
it?
Switch Online is $20 a year, and then I think with the expansion it's $50 a year, which is like
Okay.
still not bad.
Right. Well, and
um,
considering like with that, if you have multiple people in your house, like
yep,
multiple people can use online.
yeah, and that's also like you get certain DLCs for free, like the
Hmm.
Mario Kart track packs and stuff. So,
Which reminds me, we did play Mario Kart.
oh, nice.
Saw that the new track packs came out. I don't know when, but they did.
Hmm. This was the final one, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I had to school Justine on DK Mountain,
Nice.
which is way easier on the Switch than it was on GameCube.
I also yeah, what about it was different? Because we actually just played Mario Kart not that long ago, and the people we were playing with have the track. So we did DK Mountain, and what was different?
So, you know, when you're coming down the mountain and you have to go around those like three curves that are like broken off at the edge and it's really easy to fall down,
Yep, 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 yep,
those were way wider.
yep. And then isn't the bridge different too?
The bridge was like moving, like it was waving by itself. It wasn't like the GameCube where it would move with wherever
Part
you were on
dependent.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, isn't it so funny that that's the decision that they made? And I noticed that immediately. I was telling Justine, I was like, back on the GameCube, like there was actually physics on this bridge.
Hmm.
And now it's just kind of waving by itself. Like why? What was the reasoning?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, nice. It's a
Yeah,
solid. That's a solid week.
yeah, it's a good week. Easy week.
I I kind of mirrored what you did.
All right.
Yeah. Um, I played MLB The Show, which is my Forza.
Sure.
And then actually last week, Shelby and I finished Chrono Trigger,
How was that?
and it is, I think, not to be uh like I feel like so many other people. It genuinely might be like one of, if not, I won't say the best, but it's one of the best games I've ever played.
Wow.
Like
High praise.
you take into consideration like the year it came out and stuff like that, and the fact that it still plays extremely well. We were playing on the original SNES. Um, it has a really, really, really solid story. That's a lot of fun, and it just felt really good and really satisfying. Um, Definitely not that hard, which was nice. It didn't feel like you got put in like RNG hell like you do with so many old JRPGs.
Hmm.
At the tail end of the game, it's technically an optional like side quest, but I was playing it. I was playing towards the end of the stream 2 weeks ago, and it was basically just like a boss fight. Then you would get to a save, and then you would immediately go into like another boss fight. Just like bullet sponge type bosses where you're just like, oh my god, like you just have to like dump a ton of damage, and then you're also trying to manage health and stuff like that for your party.
Hmm.
And we ended the stream, and Shelby was just like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to be able to do any of this, because you do have to like make like quick decisions and stuff, but like otherwise, it's not like it's just navigating menus. But she's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to like do it. And the idea of like us playing these old games is that we're doing them together and we're like swapping off every now and again with who's playing. And sometimes it's like easy with like Mario. It's just like on a death, basically. You just pass it. But with Chrono Trigger, it was a little more difficult to like have that. So it was just kind of like when it felt right, like, oh, I've been playing for a bit. Now you take over. But that was basically going to be the rest of the game, was basically just going to be fight after fight after fight. And so anyway, long story long, last Thursday, I was like, you're going to start. So that way, if you hit the point where you're like, I got to be done, I can take over and I'll just finish it out. But she actually finished it. Like
Nice.
she did I didn't play once last week to finish out the game. And she basically did, there were a bunch of fights at the end where it's like 3 phases in the boss. So she effectively did, I think she did 5, like one, I would say major boss battle that was 3 phases. So call that 3 fights. And then 2 like mini boss battles with only a save before that like 3-phase boss attack, and then a save after the like second of the mini boss. It was crazy. And she managed perfectly fine. And then yeah, she managed fine against like the big bad at the very end too. And it was awesome. I mean, I was coaching the entire way. But she was killing it. And yeah, great game. Like truly phenomenal. I don't know if Chrono Trigger's on the like SNES collection, but if it is, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. I know there are also options if you can find it for. I think there was like a PS1 port that added like some anime like cutscenes and stuff like that, but it plays like true to the original. Would totally recommend doing that. And then I think there's like a DS port of the game where there are some minor differences in terms of like items and stuff like that. But I honestly, I'm in the camp of like any way you can play it, you should, because it's real solid.
I think I saw that at that game store that we went to in Syracuse, but I think it was a ridiculous price.
Yes.
I was so
I Yes, it is expensive
emulate.
to find. So if it is on the collection, I would absolutely say like do it. The only thing
That it is.
that I believe, and like the thing I loved about playing on the original, is that like you don't get those save states that you were talking about. So the game is not that difficult. So I would say if you can, don't cheese. If you emulate, don't cheese any sort of like quick saves or anything like that. Try and only use the ones that the game gives you, because that's some of the fun of it, is like kind of figuring it out. But it's good. It's a very good game. Yeah.
Good recommendation.
Other than
If I can
that,
find it, I'll check it out.
you absolutely should. I think you would actually really like it. And it's not that long. It's like maybe 20 hours.
That's pretty long.
Okay. So it's kind of long.
It's not bad. I mean, it's not. I mean, I put 150 hours in Cyberpunk, so
Yeah. I mean, in fairness to Chrono Trigger, it is probably the longest SNES game. I don't think that's necessarily true, but a bunch of the other games, like, so next up we're playing Super Punch Out. And then we have like the Donkey Kong countries and Super Metroid.
nice.
And I'm trying to think. Oh, and
Are you gonna play Super Metroid on stream?
yeah. Yep. I don't
I'm gonna
know
watch.
when that falls in the timeline, but it'll be coming up because like we're working through the consoles. And I was on the fence of it whether or not I wanted to do Metroid as like a series or if I wanted to do it as parts of Generations, and I think we're ultimately just going to do it as parts of Generations.
Yeah,
Um, but
I can
I'll
understand wanting a break in between games.
yeah, but like we're gonna do Legend of Zelda as a series. We're gonna do Final Fantasy as a series, starting with 7. Um, so we'll see. I mean, like, because that's also kind of just like kind of the same, roughly the same as you go from one to the next. But regardless, um, I was looking it up to try and get an idea of how long each game is, and they're all like sub 10 hours easy. Um, and we normally stream for about 4, so like 1 or 2 streams for each game. The only other long one that we have, and by long it's like 20 hours give or take, is Earthbound. So, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun going back and playing old games and uh, seeing what people had at the time or had to put up with at the time. But yeah, other games that I played Hello Neighbor, and that game is janky as hell.
It is something. Yeah.
And I don't know if I had a good time with it or not. But I did play it. So yeah.
That's like the exact reaction. I tried search the words today. I tried playing that game right when it came out because I think it was like a Xbox Live Gold game or something.
Okay.
And I think I played it once and said, I don't get it. But then I tried it again and said, yeah, not for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know a
So
lot of people like it though.
yeah, people do certainly like it. I don't know if I'm people,
Mhm.
but it was a platinum. So
Good.
yeah. That's it. That's all I got. So let's turn our attention to the news, shall we?
We'll save it for next week.
We could. No, I mean, I think this is all really exciting. We have 3, I would say, major headlines uh or current events with gaming that I think are all worth discussing because of the positive impact and positive outlook it provides us for the industry.
Sure.
So first up, you might have seen the Star Wars Outlaws game, right? People are excited for it. Star Wars game.
Went out on my birthday.
Is it?
Yeah,
That's a nice little birthday present.
that's what I said.
People found that there's a season pass for the game, and it's a part of those like collectors bundles and stuff like that. Game's already $70, but if you pay an extra 30 or you pay an extra 50 or whatever, you get this extra benefit. And there's a mission or a quest line that is included in the premium bundle, that has to do with Jabba the Hutt, which a lot of people thought Jabba the Hutt was going to be a big part of just like the main story of the game. Now, it turns out Ubisoft did come out and say that Jabba the Hutt is still a very like big part of the game. So it does
Oh,
seem
he's
like
not a small dude.
fair enough. Fair enough. So it does seem like people maybe jumped to the conclusion that just all of Jabba the Hutt, because I think the quest line literally is like it's got Hutt in the name. So people I think thought that meant all of the Jabba the Hutt content was locked behind it. It's apparently not the case, but still,
That's the you can't out Jabba the Hutt mission.
Are you proud of that one?
Quite. That's why I interrupted you.
That's good. No, that was good.
Couldn't hold it in any longer.
So that's interesting. There's a discussion to be had about premium content and stuff like that for single player experiences. So that's one headline. That's one topic for us to talk about. Another thing, Mike Ibarra. You know him. You love him. Former Xbox, former ActiBliz, former Xbox again. He made the transition, right?
I honestly have no idea where he is. Is he back on Xbox?
Well, I think he's gone again. Regardless, he thinks it would be cool if there was like a tip feature for us plebs who buy games to tip, $10 to $20 in instances where we feel like we had such a great experience with the game and we want to reward them for not nickeling and diming us. To go ahead and just sauce $10 to $20 the developer's way. So he thinks that tipping could be an interesting thing to add as an option for consumers. So I think there's a discussion to be had there, for sure, right?
Yeah, like maybe we should be grateful we don't have touch screens on our controllers after all this time.
But wait, one last super positive and definitely has no repercussions or anything negative about it. Take-Two, the publisher of such games as Grand Theft Auto 5 and soon to be Grand Theft Auto 6, announced that they are laying off
Layoffs?
more than 500 employees. And they will also be halting and canceling certain projects.
Do you think they should halt and cancel their lawsuit against It Takes Two developer?
I think they should probably. It seems like they're in a lot of trouble. They should probably do the responsible thing and cancel GTA 6.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly save a lot of money.
Yeah, just scrap it.
Wouldn't have to pay developers.
Nobody wants it. And it certainly won't make you 10 to 20 boatloads worth of cash that you could
over 3 generations
potentially give to employees for their contributions to the game, rather than trying to pass along the responsibility of paying devs to the consumers who already pay $70 for a game that doesn't even give them all the content of the game. Because if they want that, if they want the content that centers around a very important character to the story, they have to pay a premium there. But as long as they don't feel like they're being nickel and dimed, yeah, pass it along to them to pay the devs an extra $10 to $20 for the gracious game that they've been given. I mean, what are we doing here? What? Insane that these three stories happen so close together, and it's impossible to not just see a through line into all of it. And it's impossible, for me at least, not to be incredibly frustrated with this being the way that things are going. And, so many people talk about how, companies and, just companies and industries aren't run by the people who actually care or have contributed, right, to the industry and the company. It's instead now all of these things are being run by somebody with a business degree. And I graduated college with a business degree, so I'm potentially, self-attacking here, but it's fucking ridiculous that, Take-Two is absolutely doing layoffs because at the end of the day, this is going to be better for shareholders. Literally, GTA 6 is in the works. That game is going to make more money than anything ever, I think is a very fair thing to say.
Mm-hmm. And you have a business degree.
Right. Thank you. I've analyzed the markets, and I've taken a peek at overhead, and the return on investment of the.
You've got the buzzwords.
Sorry,
of a business major.
I can't think of other buzzwords right now. Something's happening.
That's because you didn't pay the MBA subscription.
Thank you.
That's when you get to the next level.
It's just so fucking like, what? And then you have a guy, in Mike Ybarra, you have somebody who was a boss of one of the biggest gaming companies in Blizzard, right? Mm-hmm. And he's suggesting that maybe players should be able to tip the devs. And I'm so broken up about these ideas and stuff, because if I had a better through line into knowing that money was going directly to the devs and stuff like that, sure, there could be a potential thought there. But like I said, we already pay $70 for a game. And that's not even my biggest gripe. I don't give a flying fuck how much games cost standard is, right? I still stand by that. I consider us lucky that PS2 games were $50, PS3 games were $60, and for two entire generations, games remained $60. That's nuts. So the fact that we've only gone up an additional $10, probably for the best. And I shouldn't be saying that because I'm giving them bad ideas. So I don't that's not even my biggest gripe. It's the fact that we pay $10 more for games than we were, and we're getting less upfront than we've ever been given. And if we want this additional content, dude, Pokemon, right? Love Pokemon games. One of the best things about Pokemon games used to be the post game, right? Getting through the Pokemon League would be 30 hours, let's just say. It would take you 30 hours from Pallet Town through the Pokemon League. And then you would have 100 hours of just post game, collecting the rest of the Pokemon, doing all these basically side missions into finding legendaries, right? Just the fucking best. And now that is an additional $30 that you need to pay to basically get some sort of post-game fun. It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. So we're getting less than we were getting. And now we need to also potentially give $10 to $20 if we feel like we haven't been nickel and dimed. My brother in Christ, we've been nickel and dimed at every fucking turn.
I just find it so incredibly tone deaf. It feels like all I see online now is just jokes about tipping culture in the United States. And for him to come out and say, "Oh, maybe this is a good idea," is just so tone deaf. It's insane.
We should already be steering away from tipping. And I don't mean that in the sense of I hate having to give 20%. I don't care. I'll pay my dues. That's fine. I'm not saying I refuse to tip. I'm saying Just fucking pay people what they're worth. So I don't need to tip.
And don't jack up the prices to compensate. I mean, you go to many other places in the world for dinner, and you'll pay less for a meal than you would in the United States, and you don't tip on top of it.
Yep.
But the people who are serving you are doing it as a career, and they're getting paid well, and they make a living wage. I think the funny thing is that even by proposing the idea of being able to tip devs, and this is a former president of a major
Of
developer
course it
and
fucking is.
publisher,
Of course it fucking is.
all you're doing is acknowledging that you're not paying people right.
Or you want to find a way to pay people less and pass the responsibility of ensuring devs are paid enough onto the consumer. So that way, again, you can pay less, and that way shareholders make more. It's disgusting. It is disgusting.
If you're telling me that games should actually be $80 or $90 for devs to be paid correctly, then just come out and say that.
Right.
Like I would have way less, like you said, we've gone how many generations without like a meaningful price increase to games. I know people are up in arms about $70, but like you said, I mean, you look back at history, and for the games we're getting now compared to what we were getting on the GameCube, just in terms of like quality and
scale
technological
and
complexity.
Sure.
Yeah, like it has not been proportional at all.
100%.
And that's probably why devs are being laid off and not paid well, or contractors are being taken advantage of, is because the industry, and I'm not blaming the consumers, but like publishers get so much backlash when they propose a higher price for a game. I just like the idea of saying it's the consumer's responsibility to pay the devs is just so fucking stupid to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty gross. And you could convince me that $10 to $20 extra is necessary to make sure that everybody involved is paid properly. You could convince me of that. You won't be able to convince me of that, though, when you give Bobby fucking Kotick a $750 million bonus or some shit for being literally the worst human being on planet Earth. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, the price increase of the game isn't going to then also correlate to better wages for the developers. It's simply going to mean, an extra layer on top for the payout to the shareholders.
Right.
Like, that's all it's going to be. And it's so incredibly frustrating. Dude, I mean, just the irony of like a story discussing layoffs for again, one of the biggest publishers. Like the holy cash cow is about to explode for them. What, next year? Do we know GTA 6 is confirmed 2025? Or do we not know a year yet?
I didn't think we knew. I thought it was like further out, like 2027 or something.
Oh my god. I hope that's not real. I don't know why 2025 is sticking out of my head, but that's on me. So
I'm trying to find it.
But whatever, we know it's coming, right?
No, I mean, it does say the first thing that comes up is between January and April of 2025.
Jeez. There's no way. November 2025, bet.
Okay, this is Take-Two's site. Okay, that just says 2025.
So either way,
that must maybe people speculating.
At most, if it is confirmed, if it is for sure 2025, even if it's 2026, you have a year and a half to 2 years until this thing explodes, and you have more money than any corporation could possibly ever need.
We've got less than a year.
If
when it
that,
comes
if
down
the
to Jan.
January, yeah, yeah. I mean, exactly. And you're going to lay off 500 employees, 5% of your workforce. Why? It's just insane to see that, to then see like and it's always these people at the top who are making, again, more money than any single person could reasonably need, I'm sure, suggesting, hey, maybe instead of that cup of coffee, maybe instead of buying your Starbucks, why don't you tip a game dev?
Mhm.
Right? Like, pass it on to the consumer. It's the consumer's fault. It always is the consumer's fault. And then, the whole Ubisoft Star Wars Outlaws thing. Look, hopefully they aren't doing a scummy thing, and what appears to be the main antagonist of everything, Jabba the Hutt. Hopefully that character is not locked behind a fucking premium. But just this whole mindset of like premium content, and not just giving, like, that is us tipping the devs. We're paying an additional 50 fucking dollars for not a full second game, for sure. A couple of cosmetics and stuff like that. And if it's a game that I really like, or a series that I really like, sometimes I'm more than willing to do that. I'm willing to pay the premium for where I'm definitely not getting the value. 1000%. But I'm more than happy to do it for the extra goodies. It's just so funny. It's just so ironic to see just all three of these stories at the same time. Because to me, uh, spoiler, surprise, I was lying at the top. To me, this just like tells me that shit is doomed in the game industry. And if the massive amount of layoffs that we had been seeing for now the past year and a half, basically since the start of 2023, if that wasn't enough of a sign of how things are truly going, man, if these three aren't like the three horsemen of the gaming apocalypse, just terrible. So how do we fix it?
You introduce a mechanic where if you get caught by Boba Fett in Outlaws, you have to pay $2 to get unfrozen from carbonite. That'd be a mechanic that people would want.
Or,
I mean, $2 real life dollars as well, not like in
yeah. Or you have to wait for C3PO and R2D2 to dumb their way into the place to eventually help free the princess and free you from the carbonite. And I don't know how long Han was in there, but it was, I think, a very long time. So, but you'd have to wait in real time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how you fix it. I really don't. Stop buying games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is obviously the vote with your wallet method.
As unreasonable as it is.
Yeah, the problem is I don't bemoan anybody for because it's not just video games, right? Where, I mean, you and I were just talking before, and like, there's, and we've brought it up in the past when we talk about, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like you boycott or you Yeah, boycott. You do it in your own ways, right? But like, we all only live for so long, and shit's already fucked in all of our own ways. And so I don't bemoan somebody for paying the $70 that they have to play a Star Wars game because they like Star Wars.
Mhm.
Right? Like, you know, uh, but yeah, like the big thing is it goes kind of back to like when you and I were discussing the whole Dragon's Dogma 2 micro in air quotes transactions. Um if you don't see the value in it, don't fucking buy it. Don't let anybody strong arm you into buying it. Don't let somebody strong arm you into thinking you have to pay or tip $10 to $20. That is 1000% a dog whistle for we just don't want to pay developers what they're worth.
Mhm.
Um don't yeah, don't don't do it.
Don't do anything.
um you know, cuz holy fuck, as soon as we let them think it's okay to do these things, they will go full tilt,
Mhm.
right? If $100 is too much for a video game, if suddenly, for the PS6 and the Xbox 2 series or some shit, whatever we think they're gonna call their next console, if they decide that we're ballooning games to $100 and that's too much, don't like hold strong. Don't fucking buy them. Guaranteed enough people still will though, and so they won't see the loss in players because they'll still see a positive gain in money. So I don't know. I don't know.
It's all really interesting statistic too. And I'm like kind of wondering if this is somehow correlated that 60% of games played, I think it was 60% of games played in 2023 were 6 years old or older.
60% of games played in 2023 were 6 years
Yeah, let me see if I can
old
find.
or
I think
older.
IGN posted it.
Basically saying that like people are still only getting around to last gen's catalog.
Yeah, so this was from Newzoo, which we've done a podcast on their research before too.
Oh yes, they always have really satisfying, right? Like really
Yeah.
satisfying displays and stuff.
Yeah, and it's not about backlog. It's just about like the type of games that are out. So this is just a snippet from it. According to a report from market researcher Newzoo, 60% of games played in 2023 were at least 6 years old, and 80% of play time was accounted by 66 titles. This includes games like Fortnite,
Mm-hmm.
Roblox, League of Legends, Minecraft, and GTA 5, which made up 27% of all play time in 2023. Starfield was the only single player game to make the top 10, and it was only available on Xbox.
That's crazy.
So, and maybe this, I think these publishers are riding a very fine line. Yeah, it could be. I mean, if we take a step back, it could be that these publishers are about to crack, considering that people are just playing really good games that already exist.
Yeah.
They're scrambling to try to make money off of these things. And I just feel like people are going to be like, no, I'm just gonna play Fortnite.
Yeah.
If I have to pay for the base game and then continue to pay just for the experience, then it's just a no go. When I can play Fortnite, which is I can enjoy it either way,
Mm-hmm.
but I can also choose to put more money into it if I want.
As long as they're not nickel and diming you.
Right.
As long as they haven't shanked me for the $10 or $20 in my wallet, I could willingly give it if they haven't done it already. Oh my fucking god. That's what this all feels like, right? Like there's a bubble and it's about to burst. And so yeah, maybe it's the publisher side of things that's ready to fall apart and crack.
Yeah.
It's so funny though, because it does feel like you call out that people are playing older games. I feel like we've talked about this before too, where it feels like, nobody's taking any real risks with games. They're all just trying to do safe stuff, and I think maybe that's some of the issue. But when they do take risks, they half-ass it.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have no reason to give up the 6-year-old game that has maintained keeping our attention and keeping us satisfied, to jump ship to this, again, half-assed attempt. So then the consumers are blamed for that. See, we tried to do something different and nobody bought it. Or they do put the time and care into it and people get to it late because they didn't put the time and care into getting it in front of people and stuff like that.
Yeah. They're just saying gamers only want one thing and it's disgusting. And it's just the Splinter Cell logo.
And it's Stellar Blade. Oh,
well, yeah, okay. There's two things that
were you saying
want.
gamers derogatory, or were you saying gamers?
Yeah, I can't wait until like Stellar Blade is a massive hit and then just games are porn.
Dude, Stellar Blade is going to be the thing that I think finally gets this podcast to end. Because I'm not going to be able to deal with, there are two outcomes. Stellar Blade is either a massive hit and then we're going to get all these goddamn think pieces about how wokeness is over. Or Stellar Blade's not going to do that well. And again, I don't think for really any particular reason. And it'll be because the woke crowd. It wouldn't be because people don't have $70 fucking to spend on a game. Where the only thing they're now seeing is that it's just a game about ass, I think. Because that's all anybody's posting about it. Nobody's actually posting anything like fun about the gameplay. Or the fact that I actually have seen people point it out. The fact that this skin suit, which I don't know how you're supposed to play a game one-handed, but that's the idea, I think. But that if you actually wear that suit,
the accessibility controllers.
If you actually wear that suit, it causes you to go basically into like one hit mode. So if you take a hit, you're done.
In game? Or
yeah. Or well, hopefully
life?
in life too. But yeah, like nobody's talking about that, which is actually a fucking brilliant mechanic. I don't know if whatever. So
it's going to be one of those things where you're going to see like just people who are really good at the game go like tear through it, and nobody's going to realize like, oh, if they ever got hit, it would have been like over.
Yeah. Instead, we're all just in the corner gooning over it.
Yeah.
I just.
Soloer will never be impressive again.
It's good that that's gonna be I'm not gonna be able to fucking deal with all of the nonsense that comes out after that game.
When does that come out?
Next month. Like maybe a month from today, basically.
Yeah. So this could be last 4 episodes ever of GGBG. Our episode count.
What's our episode count?
Yeah.
How dare you ask me that? I don't know. 185. This is 186 maybe.
Well, not quite lost, but
Did I say 186?
I think you somewhere around there. I think you said
What?
185, 186.
Okay. If I said 186 for this episode, I fucking nailed it.
Wow. There you go.
Anyway. Yeah, I final wrap up since we went on a tangent. These are all, I think, pretty clear signs. And there's been some other stuff too. Like talking about how a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy, the idea is to make it a live service game instead. Which Mr. Ibarra, I think that is an attempt to nickel and dime people. But if it's not, talk to good old WB, see how they can put in a tip feature. Not great. It's not great. And hopefully we see a fundamental shift in this. I don't want to be like the person who's like talking about how great things used to be, because we know for a fact that things were still pretty shit, especially in terms of like working conditions and stuff like that. Even when the consumers were probably experiencing the best things could be for us. So I think we just need fundamental change all around, where the consumer feels like they're actually getting what they paid for, while knowing that the people making the games are being paid what they're worth. And there's definitely a way. There's definitely a way to get there, but leadership's too busy figuring out how to do the opposite.
Yeah, that's a good wrap up. You want to stick it to the man, play games older than 6 years old?
Yeah. I genuinely
Or
hope
buy a retro console.
or yeah. Buy a SNES and go pick up Chrono Trigger. You can get about 20 hours out of it. That's not true. There's New Game Plus. I'm just not doing it. All right. Hopefully, Mike, we have something more fun to talk about next week. Even if we just have to start making shit up. That'll do it though. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know if you have any thoughts on how things could be better, or maybe we just have too much of a pessimistic outlook on everything that we discussed. So try and show us the silver lining if there is one, and I will sell you a mirror to show you a liar. As always, if you could leave a rating or review wherever you listen to the podcast, it would be greatly appreciated. And share the podcast with a friend. It would greatly help us. And if you feel like Mike and I haven't nickel and dimed you here today, feel free to tip us $10, $20. You might be able to help feed a podcast host. We'll talk to you next week.